looking at some bad generations. Now, we've all had a favorite car that we've all loved that was then later ruined by the car company coming out with a new generation. Now, some of these are replacement cars, like the first one, where it is a good car model that gets replaced with another one that the car company thinks will sell better, but is overall a worse car. But most of them are just generations of cars, right? So like an older car, but a newer car, but they're different and the car company changed it, right? And the older one is actually better than the new one. So let's look at the first instance. This was the car that was replaced, the Chrysler Town & Country, one of the most iconic and best minivans you could buy for a very, very, very long time. And they replaced it with this, a Chrysler Pacifica. Now, I'm going to show you why the Pacifica is worse. Now, in terms of reliability, the Pacifica is right up there with the Town & Country. In terms of people storage, the Pacifica is right up there with Town & Country. In terms of everything else, the Pacifica, is right up there with the Town & Country. But there's one thing where the Pacifica seriously is worse. And that is driving. For some reason, the Pacifica is so terrible. You can see here in the Chrysler, you want to shift gears, you've got a dash-mounted shifter, right, and a good old standard push-button parking brake. Anyway, on the Pacifica, you have a little knob. That's right. You have what is essentially a volume knob for, shifting your car. You would think that you'd want a little bit more for shifting your car, but apparently not. So, in the Chrysler, you get to, actually shift your shifter. You get to shift, you get to hold, you get to touch something. In this thing, you just have to, turn the volume up and put yourself into drive, Ridiculous, awful. The rest of the interior is just worse, This, good storage amount, good everything, nice, solid build, If your kid gets really mad, puts the seat down, starts kicking the dashboard, very reliable, gonna stay in place. The Pacifica, it's all plastic, it's all pieces of crap, it's all modern day car culture compared to an older legend, right? The two-tone plastic, everything in this car is plastic, it's all terrible, it's all awful, there's no storage space in the dashboard, there's a smaller glove box, there's barely any storage in the center console. This is objectively a worse car. Not because it's less reliable, but because there's less features, and overall, I hate the style of it more, right? This is more objective, but, this is just not an easier car to drive. It is far worse for driving, far worse for everyday tasks, and far worse than everything else, too. I really do not like the Pacifica. The next car on this list is the Toyota RAV4. Now, this is the generation. Now, this had some serious advantages. It was four-wheel drive, and it was shaped like a proper off-roader. By that, I mean big wheels, not very long, right? They also squeezed in a third row there, right? So V6 four-wheel drive, third row. The generation after that only came in all-wheel drive. A V6 was not an option and no third row. It was also more of a pavement princess, right? This was higher off the ground, better at off-roading, four-wheel drive. That wasn't for snow, that was for off-roading, right? Meanwhile, the one after that was more like a raised Camry, right? You can see it there. There's still a decent amount of ground clearance, but it's still much, much, much closer to the ground. Smaller wheels, very, very long. This older one was shorter. Wheels were, higher off the ground. Well, the body was higher off the ground. Now, the new one had a much better interior from the old one. The old one always was very behind, even when it came out in the interior department. But this was more, less of a driver's car and more of a, we need to sell more models, so we came out with this car, right? Again, sad to see it happen and get, a V6 four-wheel drive, third row car that's actually great at off-roading be replaced with something that is just a pavement princess and what you'd assume. No, I'm not like the off-roader guy who's like, a 4Runner, we only drive Land Cruisers. No, I drive a Prius, so what the hell do I know? But in my opinion, this was just not a good, crossover. No, it was not a good crossover. This was one of the best crossovers. I mean, this wasn't a good generation, right? I'm not saying that this was a bad generation. It was just different. It appealed to an entirely different segment of buyers. And if I'm being honest, I don't really think this was really an SUV anymore, and this generation is where it turned into a crossover. Now, this is not my favorite generation. In fact, this is just because it's more of an SUV and less of a crossover, right? Next vehicle on this list is the Toyota Camry. This is the Camry, the 90s good old reliability. We all know the 90s Toyota reliability, that you don't even have to take the oil filter out. You don't even have to drain the oil. Just pour some new oil in there. It'll be fine. If it overflows, that's fine. The old oil is coming out. You know that mentality. Just chuck some gas and oil in it. Maybe an actual oil change. That was a joke. Don't do that. And the car will last forever. Well, this, got hastily replaced by Toyota after they wanted to make a quick, cheap buck and wanted to replace the Camry to, keep that, hold on the Civic going strong. And they replaced it with this. A much blubbier, fattier, blobfish-looking Toyota Camry that was less reliable. This is the hybrid version, so it doesn't have any of these problems. It had oil consumption and piston ring problems. Two problems on cars that are with American big cars, those unreliable cars. This is a Toyota Camry, Toyota's peak reliability car. In fact, the car that probably draws in the most buyers for Toyota, and yet this was a very unreliable car. It's counted as one of the most unreliable Toyotas ever, and another thing why I don't really think that it was up to spec with the other Camrys. Now, it was nicer to drive and it was everything, but like I said, it took us out of that, Toyota early 2000s, late 90s, early 80s reliability, that rough and tumble, skinny, long hood, long trunk, nice big sporty cabin, to this blubbery mess, blubbery, taller, closer to the ground. I'm not saying that this is worse, it's just different, right? The next car on this list is the Volvo XC90. This car, it was an off-road legend. All-wheel drive, V8, a perfect car. It even had a third row. These things were amazing and great off-road. I only saw a couple of them in Oregon because they were so damn expensive. But other than their price, everything was so great about these vehicles. Like I said, great off-roaders, high off the ground, amazing legend. And then in 2015, remember, this car was so good, they kept it going from 2002 to, believe it or not, 2014. That is a 12-year span. And what they replaced it with kind of took me out of that. Volvo is always known, for their cars and their durability. And then, in the early 2010s, they started getting more blubbery cars, like the Camry, right? They started doing that a little bit more. And I was really hoping that the XC90 wasn't going to be affected, because that was like the king of off-roaders. Of course, it wasn't a Land Cruiser, and it wasn't, LX, but it was up there, right? Again, great off-roader, great car. And they replaced it with this. A family hybrid crossover. Now, I'm not saying that this is a bad car. It's not an off-road legend, though. It's not a V8. It's not cool. It's, again, I have become kind of the patron saint of uncool, everyday economy cars just because I love them, and I always will. I think this is a little bit too bland. Now, of course, the interior is nice. It's a great car. I'm just saying it's not the off-road, demon, ultimate, driving machine that it used to be. It's more a family crossover. I think it does belong that way, and this one-off, huge, ultimate off-roader was interesting when it happened, but I didn't think it would last that long, especially not 12 years. So, yeah, this thing came out before I was born, and when this thing went out of production in 2014, I was, the production, 2014, I was 7? No, I am an absolute idiot, because it was 7, and I thought that I was wrong. I'm so tired right now. So yeah, this car was great. This one was like every other car. The last car on this list is something that people aren't going to really notice, right? This was probably one that you didn't expect to see, right? You expected to see something like the Lexus ES or a Lexus LC. No. This. Now, why? This car, when it first came out, was great. It was revolutionary. It had everything you wanted it to do. Now, I'm going to explain why I love this car so much. There are very few cars that captivate my attention as much as the HR-V did when it came out. First of all, you have amazing wheels. They're diamond cut. They're very cute. They're stained to match the car. Very, very nice. You have chrome on the grille, which is really tastefully placed. Just a really nice exterior looking. You've got this really nice amber turn signal, white reverse light, classic Honda look to it, and all-wheel drive. So, can't complain about that. Like I said, the really nice wheels. I think they're carved really nicely, really smooth, and I really think they just show off the niceties of Honda and how it's designed. The interior was technologically filled, but in a good way, in a way that you would actually care about. You've got a mini screen down here, the touch buttons for your climate controls. I found that system to be really relaxing and kind of like ASMR to use. It's really simple, just touch, and it's done. So yeah, great system. You had a touchscreen. Now, it was a small touchscreen, but boy, was that thing great. It was super responsive. Wherever you touched, exactly pinpoint, that's where it would click. I've had a RAV4 where you'd click it, and then 2 inches above the screen, that's where it'd register. So, amazing car. And you also had a DVD player, which for 2014/2019 was very nice and new. You also have 3 passenger air vents, which was very nice. It helped cool the car off a lot in the summer. My friend had one of these, and I fell in love with it. I almost bought one of these. I didn't have the money at the time because I didn't have a car at the time, but I loved it. Got it brand new, rich parents. What are you going to do? But yeah, like I said, technology, but tastefully placed, right? You've got what gear you're in over there, which is really efficient. And then, your speedometer, your miles per hour, in the front and center, what you should be looking at, right? Drawing attention to it. It's got some nice, tastefully placed chrome in there, a nice screen over there, telling you trips, information, and a nice digital, gauge cluster. You've also got, adjustments and everything. Very nice, like I said, system, like I said, touch things down there. Very nice. You've got an actual shifter that you can click and shift, and it was a very nice car. And they replaced it with this soulless, awful car. First of all, it's got these weird, fangs to it, which I don't like it. It's also got these headlights that look like they're way too far up, and this grille that looks like it's way too far down. The Honda logo just doesn't look good on this car, and it looks like a dog having a poo. Instead of, it has a univent, I guess, but it's hideous, and it's in this weird, Honda way to it. It's just, I don't like it. This is also the sport model. The back is nice, but there's too much space over here for where the Honda logo is placed. It's the small things about this car, which is why I don't like it. You've still got a real shifter, but you've got a really flimsy, awful gauge cluster. The Prius has a very swooping in, flying buttress-like. I believe that's what CNET described it as. I watched the reviews before I bought it, because I really love my car. I'm a nerd. That's what I do. I read the pamphlet and watch the video before I buy anything. And you could store a purse or whatever you wanted under there. I know I stored my laptop bag a lot under there in high school. Not high school. I stored my laptop bag a lot of that in my first job, because I had a work computer, which was fancy. It was also Windows, so I hated it. But, and I felt like this was just awful, right? You've got an actual shifter, and then you've got, the parking brake and the mode buttons and all the switch stuff down there. It just didn't feel very good, And then you've got these black wheels, which are just kind of meh, you know what I mean? They're just kind of modern Honda. And also, the interior really wasn't all that nice. On the surface, it may look like it was nicer, but if you look underneath the seats, you'll see it's the same plastic crap they put in every single car. And overall, this interior felt a lot more flimsy. I was so disappointed when I heard that they were replacing the old one with this. Now, you do have a digital gauge cluster, but remember, the old one was tastefully placed. You can see here, it's already glaring like hell. I can't even see what's over there. This half the screen is completely washed out. I can't even make that out. I can't read a damn thing that's on that screen. The screen on this was placed, like an old iPod screen. The more light that shines on it, the better you can see it. That's the entire point of it, right? This was just not tasteful, right? They put it in thinking that it was a feature and not something that they knew would work, right? They were just shooting in the dark here, right? Trying to see what they could work. They've also got these stupid turn stalks. Now, I always prefer it when the turn stalks go directly into the steering wheel, because it's more secure. Instead, they've got big old chunky things with these tiny little arms going into the steering wheel, which I don't like. That just means that it's going to snap off and break off earlier, and they just spent more plastic cost doing that. It's got a smaller, crappier touchscreen with this stupid anti-glare sheet on it. Like I said, the weird vents, and then this audio climate control system, which just isn't very good. I never liked it. A single car, phone plug-in, and a little tray down there. This was really just Honda saying, go to hell, we replaced it, congratulations, we hope you like it. It's just ugly. This old one was kind of a masterpiece, right? It was a great crossover that I actually legitimately liked, and they replaced it with a soulless Honda Civic-looking, fugly car. Another thing to mention is the interior, the cloth interior. This one is one that I'm actually sad about. This is one that I really wish stayed. This one's leather, but the cloth in this one was actually really nice. It stretched to fit your butt. This one is super taut, and it's this recycled wannabe material. Car companies, if you're not going to make the cloth out of recycled materials, then don't worsen it and make it terrible just so that you'll trick buyers into thinking it is when it's actually not. It was a terrible seat. It's all about It's all about ergodynamics. You don't understand how tired I am. Aerodynamics. Ergonomic. For the love of God, I can't say the right thing. It's all about ergonomics, and these seats try really hard, but it's just not comfortable, right? Think of a mid-70s Cadillac. You sit in that thing, there's no ergonomics, there's no rigidity. You sit in that thing, it's a couch. You just go straight down. I feel like that's nicer than the, lumbar support. What even is lumbar? No, I'm joking. I know what lumbar support is, and it's needed. But I feel like the seats just aren't as nice, especially when it's this super taut thing.
Great.
Sorry, I'm listening to Top Gear and my computer just fell asleep, so I had to click it to wake it up. So yeah, with that, thank you for watching. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. And Honda, be more tasteful next time.